In today's lesson, we are going to be talking about appendages of the skin. So that includes the hair, nails, and glands. In this video, we're just going to be talking about the hair and nails, and we'll save the glands for another video. So let's start with hair. Your entire body is covered with hair, except for a few places, like the lips, palms of the hands and the soles of the feet, the nipples, and some areas of the genitals. Otherwise, everything, all of the skin that you can see has a very fine hair. You also have areas where there's a little more obvious hair, like your eyebrows, your eyelashes, your nostril hairs, and these serve important functions. For example, your eyebrows are your facial friends. They actually prevent sweat and dirt from going down your forehead and into your eyes. And of course, your eyelashes prevent dirt and dust and small insects from getting into your eyes. Your nostril hair has a very similar function. It is a physical trap for any kind of large particle that should not be in your respiratory system. And then the hair on your head can keep you warmer in cooler temperatures, although that's debatable. We don't actually have enough hair to help keep us warm, but we do have a little bit of an insulating layer. I mean, it's enough to at least hold a little bit of heat close to the scalp. So let's talk about the structure of our hair. We'll go into the screen share. And before we do, we have a bit of a review question. So, new skin cells produce which tough fibrous protein? Is it collagen, elastin, melanin, or keratin? Yes, the answer is keratin. If you said D, you are correct. And introducing or reviewing keratin is a good introduction into hair, because really all the hair that you can see is keratinized cells. Hair itself is not alive, just like the upper layers of your skin. It's not alive. Let's talk about the structure of this, where we see it in the cutaneous membrane. So we have the epidermis here, the dermis, and then hypodermis, or subcutaneous layer, just to review. And the hair itself arises from the dermis. But unlike the epidermis, the hair actually does have its own blood supply. So that is called the papilla down here. It is the nourishment for the hair bulb or hair root. So here you see a tiny little capillary and a tiny little venule there. And that's what gives oxygen and nutrients to this little red area right here. That little tiny area is the only area of the hair that's alive, because that is where the cells undergo mitosis. And as they undergo mitosis, they push up and out. But they are filled with keratin and melanin. And that's what gives hair its appearance and its texture, and of course its color. We'll get into that in a little more detail. So this whole thing is called the hair bulb. This piece right in here is really the root, and the root is the only part, again, that's alive. So as the hair pushes up through the epidermis and to the outside world, this part of the hair is called the hair shaft, right here. Now, in order for the hair to make it out of the skin or out of the epidermis, it has to be lubricated. And that's where this comes in. You see this right here? This is a sebaceous gland, and it's actually an extension of the hair follicle, which is the little layer of cells that surrounds the hair bulb and root as it makes its way out of the epidermis. So see those little purple cells? They're an extension of the hair follicle. Now, those particular cells secrete oil. A sebaceous gland is an oil gland, and that oil lubricates the hair as it makes its way up through those dead keratinized epidermal cells and to the outside world. Now, because of this, we can get dirt and excess oil and little bacteria and stuff that kind of falls back down into that sebaceous gland and causes inflammation. And that is what a pimple is. And that's it. It's just an inflammation of a sebaceous gland where dirt, oil, bacteria has become trapped. Now, let's see, what else do I want to point out here? Oh, you have another little gland here. That's going to be a sweat gland, but we're not talking about that right now. Okay. The other thing that I want to point out here is that you have muscle attached to each hair follicle. That muscle is called arrector pili muscle. Arrector pili muscle is the smallest muscle in the body, and you have one arrector pili muscle for every single hair that you have, which actually makes them the most prolific muscle in the body. You can see that here is a nerve that is attached to that arrector pili muscle, and you're probably wondering why you have a muscle attached to every hair follicle. Well, here's why. When you are frightened or cold, these nerve endings get a signal that send a signal to the arrector pili muscle to contract. And as that muscle contracts, it pulls the hair straight up. Now, if you ever have experienced your hair standing on end or goosebumps, thank the arrector pili muscle, because that is what it is for. Now, the arrector pili muscles, as far as function are concerned, would have been more important when humans were covered with more hair. When you have the hair stand on end like that, when they're upright, they actually trap heat closer to the surface of the skin to keep the body warmer. Other creatures do this obviously more than humans because we lack all the hair, or we have it, but it's so small. To kind of keep themselves warm, they fluff out, and it creates a layer of warm air near the skin. Now, for us, that doesn't work. However, we still use the arrector pili muscles to show emotion. When we get goosebumps, when we're scared or something's thrilling or whatever, that's a function of the arrector pili muscle too. So that's a nonverbal clue to another person that you have, you're having some kind of emotional reaction to whatever the situation is. So we use it in that way too. But as far as keeping us warm, well, that just doesn't work anymore. We just don't have enough hair. But that's what the arrector pili muscle is, and now you have muscles attached to every hair on your body. And I think that's all I want to mention about the structure. The structure of hair at the moment. We'll get into glands, like I said, in a different video. I want to talk more about those, but not here. Okay, so speaking of hair, we have the live hair cells right here that are receiving nutrition from the papilla. They are propagating and pushing up out of the skin to the outside world. Now, a couple of things that I want to mention about hair. I'm going to stop the screen share because we don't need it at the moment. First of all, the color of your hair is determined by melanin, which I alluded to in the previous video about skin color. I'd mentioned hair color as well. For darker hair colors, more of the eumelanin is present. For blonde hair color, more of the pheomelanin is present, actually, even though it's a reddish pigment. For people who have red hair, they actually have a combination of both the eumelanin and the pheomelanin to create the different kinds of reds that you see. So the color is determined by the amount and type of melanin, just as your skin color is determined by the amount and type of melanin. Now, when your hair goes gray or white, it is because you no longer have functioning melanocytes within the hair follicle. In other words, your melanocytes are done. So your hair no longer has melanin in it, it just has keratin. And so you still have the texture of your hair as it normally is, although that does change a little bit with age as well. But you no longer have the color. So white hair has no melanin in it at all. Gray hair still has a little bit, but hardly any. Okay, so the other thing that I want to mention about hair is the texture of hair. Now we know you can have really fine hair or really thick hair, and that's just a function of genetics, as is whether hair is straight, wavy, or curly. So individuals with straight hair, stick straight hair, they have a round hair follicle. So it's circular. So the hair just comes straight out of the round follicle and looks or appears straight, has no kinks or waves in it at all. An individual with curly hair has an oval-shaped hair follicle. So the hair comes out of the oval shape and is wavy or curly. If the hair, the more oval-shaped or sort of flatter that oval is, the curlier or kinkier the hair will be. And these kinds of things can change over a lifetime. For example, my daughter was born with very, very blonde hair. She had, was kind of white blonde and very curly. She had little ringlets that were super cute. Now that she's older, her hair is darker. It's not like my color, but it's more of a brown now. And it's not nearly as curly. It's more wavy. It's straightened out over time. I've known several people who have been born blonde and turned almost dark, like dark brown over their lifetime, or individuals who have had straight hair and then it turned curly. So it is not a once and done kind of thing. It's as your cells turn over in your scalp, they can also change the color and texture of your hair. And of course, some individuals have dark hair all their lives, like me, and the same kind of texture all their lives, like me. Although my hair actually is fairly white at the moment, you just can't tell. So my melanocytes are kicking the bucket, but it's okay. It happens. So let's talk about aging. As we age, our hair can change texture, it can change color, or we can lose it altogether. Excessive hair loss is called alopecia. Alopecia can occur due to age and genetics, or it can occur earlier in life. I actually know a couple of people who have alopecia who are completely bald. Their bodies don't produce any hair at all, and that's a more severe form of alopecia. But generally, alopecia occurs later in life. It occurs more in men than in women, although women can lose their hair and bald as well. And the reason that occurs more in men than in women is, one, genetics. You have to have the gene for baldness, specifically male pattern baldness, where you get the widow's peaks, where you start to lose hair here, and then actually it starts to bald at the pate or at the crown of the hair. And then it kind of joins itself, and then eventually you lose all the hair on top of your head. You have to have the gene for that. Now, women can have the gene for that. However, one of the driving forces of that pattern is testosterone. And of course, women don't have as much testosterone as males. Therefore, that gene tends to express itself more in males than in females. But this also explains why females will go balder or thin later in life than males. Because as women age, our estrogen drops off, but we still have, our bodies are still making the testosterone. So we actually have higher levels of testosterone than estrogen as we age, and then that gene has a chance to express itself. But again, it is more common in males than in females. That's why it's called male pattern baldness. Okay. This is in your book on page 75. There's a picture of male pattern baldness on the bottom of page 75. We are moving on to nails. So here we go. Screen sharing again. Nails, nails, nails. Nails are a lot like hair, actually. Nails are also keratinized cells. So it's made of the same substance that our hair is made of, that our skin is made of. Excuse me. It's just that in nails, the keratin, or the cells, are heavily keratinized. So this is a lot of keratin in here. And actually, I wanted to mention a fun fact to you. Did you know that a rhinoceros horn is not bone? It's actually keratinized cells. Yes, indeed. In fact, it's mostly hair. It's keratinized hair cells that create the horn of a rhinoceros and not bone. So there's a thing you know. Fun fact of the day. All right. In humans, we have something similar, nails, and they continue to grow throughout our lifetime from the nail root. Again, this is really the only live part of the nail, is the nail root. The cells undergo mitosis here. They are heavily keratinized, they flatten, and they push out. The part of the nail that you can see is the nail body, and the part that hangs over the edge of your finger is the free edge. That's the anatomy of a nail. The part that attaches to the surrounding skin is called the cuticle, and the fun little half moon shape. I have really big ones on, let's see if I can put it, there we go. Really big ones on my thumb. See the little half moon shape there? That is called the lunula. Right there, the lunula. Big or small, it doesn't really matter. Some of your nails, you might not be able to see them because they will be sort of deep to the cuticle. It's fine. It doesn't make a difference one way or the other. That's just what it's called. Now, the nail bed itself, which is under here, that's kind of an odd picture, but whatever. The nail bed itself under there is vascular. Okay, so you do have capillaries underneath the nail bed, and I can prove it to you. If you push your nail down like this, it turns white because you're squishing all the blood out of the capillaries. And when you let it go, it turns pink again because all of a sudden, whoop, the capillaries open, they fill with blood, and pink color returns. This actually has a term. It is called peripheral perfusion. Peripheral perfusion just means that the capillaries and blood vessels underneath the nail are intact. Peripheral perfusion. And you can do this at home. It's very easy. You just push down on your nail, it turns white, you let it go, it's pink again. Our nails constantly grow. They grow about 1 millimeter each week, unless you're a massage therapist, in which case they grow a lot faster. Probably because of all of the oils that we use, the fact that there's a lot more blood flow to our hands when we're working. Trust me when I say that your nails will grow faster as a massage therapist than they ever have before. You are going to be cutting them or filing them at least twice a week, if not more. Okay, so on page 76, there are conditions. Stop share for a second. There are conditions that can tell you about the health of an individual by the nails. Your book does not have any pictures, and usually if we were in class, I would bring these up and we would talk about them and they'd be on the big screen. But I think I'm just going to briefly go through these because again, this is the pathophysiology. So you know what a normal nail is supposed to look like, right? So the conditions, middle of page 76, you have clubbing. So nail clubbing means that there's been a long-term oxygen deficiency. So this happens in somebody with COPD or emphysema. And so you see how my finger is straight and my nail is proportionate to my finger. Well, in clubbed nails, that is not what it looks like. It actually looks like the end is much bigger and rounder than the rest of the finger. It looks like a little club. And even the nail itself curves in a way that makes it look almost club-like. If you see this, you would probably already have a clue because your client would have filled out a health screen and they would have indicated that they have COPD or emphysema or something that would explain an oxygen deficiency. If, however, they don't mention anything on their health screen and you do see the clubbing, nail clubbing, you might want to refer them to a physician because that's something that is going to need to be treated, usually with oxygen or supplemental oxygen or something like that. Cyanosis we've already talked about. What does it mean? Cyanosis. Yes, that's correct. It means the condition of blueness, condition of being blue. And we know that that is an oxygen deficiency. Remember I said that you can see it in the lips and in the nails. Not usually so much on the skin overall, but definitely it shows up. And I had just mentioned peripheral perfusion. Normal peripheral perfusion means that your nail will turn pink after you press it and let go. But if you have poor peripheral perfusion, it won't. It'll actually stay white or maybe even be blue. And then you know you have cyanosis. Flattened or concave nail beds, right? So normally nails make a little bit of a convex curve, so it curves up a little like this. If it's concave, like a big dip in there, typically that indicates an iron deficiency. If you have dark lines underneath the nail bed, it could be absolutely nothing. Could be a former injury, something like that. Or it could indicate a melanoma. We will talk about skin cancer in its own video later. White nails or pale nail beds may be a sign of anemia or again an oxygen deficiency. So it's not like you see a nail and you go, oh, that's definitely what it is. It's just that it could be an indication, one of many, that could mean that this person isn't getting enough oxygen. Yellowish, thickened, or slow-growing nails. Okay, well, your book says that it often occurs in individuals with emphysema, and again, this is oxygen deficiency. However, yellow, thickened nails could also be a fungal infection. In fact, more often than not, it is a fungal infection. It's called onychomycosis, and it just a little fungus gets in the nail underneath in the nail bed for some reason, and it's hard to get rid of. Antifungals work, tea tree oil works actually, it just takes longer. But yeah, the yellowing, thickish nails are typically more fungus rather than anemia or oxygen deficiency. Okay. All right. That's it for hair and nails in your book, page 75 and 76. When we come back, we will be talking about glands.